Hello and welcome to this live Employers Masterclass here from Changing Education. My name is Amos Matra. I'm a careers advisor here at Changing Education, and in this program we get to speak to employers about their own career journeys and get some insightful knowledge and wisdom into the world of work. Joining me today is nurse Chloe Bowker, who is a fully qualified and highly experienced nurse at St. Catherine's. As an adult agency nurse, Chloe's worked with and supported various individuals with lots of different health needs. This includes people with learning disability, people who have suffered from brain injuries. Chloe's now the unit lead on a dementia unit at St. Catherine's, and she's been in this role for the past 12 months. But we're not only joined by Chloe today, we've also got a very special guest here with us. It's Audrey, who's a resident. So really pleased to have Chloe and Audrey here with us today. And I'm really excited to have our WQE students, our health and social care students who've been engaging with the virtual work experience this week. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. I love the way you guys are getting involved with the work. Very positive. Your attendance has been incredible. My LinkedIn has been non-stop with you guys, putting in there great posts, and keep that going, keep that coming. Let's keep the momentum going. So well done to all of you, and I'm looking forward to this Friday live masterclass. So I can see that you've already started putting in your questions in. Keep them coming, send your questions, and we'll get them to Chloe and our special guest today, Audrey. Chloe, a warm welcome to you. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Really happy to have you here today. Really happy to have Audrey here as well with us today. So, Chloe, could you start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I've been a nurse for the last 8 years. I started my education obviously at high school, then I went on to college. I did a BTEC in health and social care that lasted for 2 years, and I knew that I wanted to help people, and that's what kind of job I wanted to do. I didn't really know how, so I was a bit lost when I was at college. I knew I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what. So I spoke to my tutor, and we sort of looked online, and we looked at the courses at universities, and then I saw a course, learning disability nursing. So, I was like, right. So I did a placement at college at a local day centre, and I really enjoyed it. So I just knew then that that's the way that I wanted to go with my career. So I applied for the university course. I did not think I was going to get in at all, because I just thought it's way above me. And then I got in. So I was like, oh, so started there. That was a 3-year course. And it was hard, don't get me wrong, it was really hard, but it was definitely worth it. There was some tears, there was some crying, there was some laughing, there was some joking, there was all sorts, but we got there and I qualified. And then I got a job as a nurse, and then I've never really looked back. It's just sort of been a vocation for me rather than a job. It's just what I've been. I think I was just born to do it.
Yeah. And, your passion comes across loud and clear. But what's interesting is how that started off with a placement. Can you tell us a little bit about that whole journey when you were applying for that placement to getting it to doing the actual job, and then getting that, that realization that, hey, this is what I want to do? What was that like?
So when I was growing up, I used to have a friend who had extra additional needs. And I never really thought anything of it as a child. You don't, do you? Just sort of accept everybody as they are. And when I got to college, I recognised that there was people that had additional needs, and I knew that they were in the world, but I just didn't know where they were, or what, if they needed help, or if there was anything I could do to help them. So I just sort of looked around, and I didn't even know. I live in a really small town, and in our local town we had a day centre for people with learning disabilities. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because obviously I've never known about it. So I just gave them a call and just said, I'm a student. I just love to come and do a bit of free work. No one's going to refuse that. So they were just like, yeah, come along. So I did 2 weeks placement, where I just used to go in every day. And it wasn't a very hands-on placement. It was more just observing and just spending time with the people and having a chat with them. yeah, and that's how it sort of went from there. So because I enjoyed working with that client group more than I would like a general nurse, that's the sort of, I knew that was a route that I wanted to go down then.
Yeah. How important was that for you? Obviously it's led to where you are here today. But we've got a lot of students here studying health and social care at WQE,
Yeah.
and they might, want to go down this route. What would you say to them in terms of, doing something like what you did? What would your advice be?
I would say definitely go for it. When I was applying, I remember speaking to different people. I spoke to a brother and a sister, and they'd both done learning disability nurses and nursing at uni, and they both said to me, "Oh, don't go into that job. You won't get a job. There's no jobs around." So I was like really disheartened by that. I went to the university open day. I spoke to the tutor, and he was just like, "Don't listen to them. It's rubbish. Like, there's definitely jobs around." And then since qualifying, although I don't work with learning disabilities now, I work with people who have dementia, which is really, really similar to people with learning disabilities. My skills are so transferable. I've got so many different skills, which I'm not saying a general nurse doesn't have them, but it is a different set of skills. And I can then transfer that into an EMI unit, which is what I work in, which is an elderly mentally infirm. And that is really important because dementia is on the rise. And I think, there's a lot of people that need that support now. So for me, if I'd have done adult nursing, I would be where I am today.
Yeah, thank you again for that. We've got a special guest sat next to you. Could you introduce Audrey for us and tell us a little bit about Audrey? Okay,
so this is Audrey. She is a lady who's lived with us for just over a year and a half. Audrey moved in, did you say July 2019?
Yeah, from the hospital.
Yeah. And when Audrey came to us, she was really, really poorly. She doesn't remember coming to us, do you? She doesn't remember moving in. She was really poorly. She was, the doctors had said that basically there was nothing else they could do for her. She was really poorly, and this was going to be her last stages, basically. So you came to us, didn't you? And she came into us on the EMI unit. And we had a few months, didn't we, where you were still quite poorly. And then she just made a miraculous recovery. And here she is today.
Fantastic. Audrey, how are you doing?
How are you doing, he says.
Oh, sorry. I'm feeling a lot better now. Yeah.
Someone tells me you enjoy doing puzzles. Is that right? Sorry
about this, but I'm waiting for the dentist.
Right. Very important that you attend your dental appointment. Yes, definitely. Someone was saying to me, Audrey, that you like, word searches and puzzles. Is that true?
Yeah, yes. That's on the table here.
Is that how you spend your time?
Yes.
Fantastic. How important is this service for you, Audrey? How important do you find it?
How important is like having a nurse and carers to look after you?
Very, very much so.
How do you find it? How do you find it?
Find it very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'm not paying her.
Fantastic. Thank you, Audrey. We'll come back to you with some more questions. We've got a first question here from Dolly, who wants to know, how did you become the unit leader that you are today? What was the process in that? Chloe? So
I obviously started off as a registered nurse, and I worked in various different units and nursing homes to gain some experience of different client groups. I went to work in a different nursing home as a deputy manager, but the nursing home didn't have a very good reputation, and the team that had in the home weren't that good either. So that really disheartened me, because obviously as a nurse, you don't want to be delivering bad care, or you don't want to be giving bad care. That's all been dealt with by CQC and everything, so not to worry, it's not still bad anymore. But for me, that really put me off. So I went back into nursing again, and I did a part-time role for 12 months just while I got myself together again and sort of built my confidence back up. And once I was confident again, I applied for this role. which originally wasn't a unit lead. It was a deputy manager's post. And I was successful. And that was 2.5 years ago, and I've never really looked back. My manager who works here now, she came to us just over 12 months ago. And since then, we've just flown. We've like turned the service around. We've just done so much stuff and like made everything good. And the place is better now, isn't it, Audrey? It's a nicer place to live.
Yes.
Yeah, we've managed to turn things around, and get the care is absolutely superb. And it's just a lovely place to work. So, yeah, it's just experience, really. I think once you get more experience, the higher up you can go. So,
yeah, the more experience, the higher up you go, indeed. Audrey, have you had your COVID jab?
Have you had your COVID jab?
The first one, yes.
Fantastic. How are you feeling?
Fine.
Excellent.
Acting fit.
Yeah, you know, I've had my COVID jab. I'm fine. Yeah, waiting for the second one. Excellent.
Like a walk in the park.
Exactly. Yeah. Chloe, we've got a question here for you from Natasha. Natasha wants to know, what's the most difficult part about your job?
Going home. I love my job. I love the people that I look after. And when you're at work, it's like a family. So we're all a big family here. So you have like your work family and your home family. So when there's something happening that's, you know, if someone's really poorly, that you care for those people because you're looking after them day in, day out. It's really hard to step away from that and go home. There was a couple of years ago, there was a lady who lived here, and she was a really strong character, and she was really poorly. And me and like the manager, we were coming in at like 5 a.m. and staying till 10 at night, and then in just things like that, just because you don't want to go home because you want to be there, because it's quite a pride. You know, you're quite proud to look after somebody when they're really poorly, and you don't want to miss it because it's such a nice thing to do for someone. It's like your last respect to them. So that's the hardest thing I find, is leaving someone when they're not very well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you clearly, you know, you care about what you do. Not wanting to go home, that obviously shows your interest in either that or something else, but I'm sure you thoroughly enjoy what you do. And it shows that, you know, to be successful in this career, you do have to have a passion for it. You
Definitely
do have to want to do good for people. And speaking to your colleagues this week, you know, again, it keeps coming again. It's being people orientated. How important is that?
To be people orientated.
Yeah.
Yeah, important. I don't think you could do this job for the money or for anything other than the pure joy of doing it and the pure, you know, wanting to do it, because it is just a job that it's more, I can't really explain it. It's, you know, it's not just a job you walk in at 9 o'clock and go home at 5 o'clock. It is just a 24-hour job. And although you don't have to be here 24 hours, the care goes on for 24 hours. So when you're not here, people are still here doing your job.
Yeah.
You definitely have to be a people person.
Yeah. And as your colleagues have kept on saying, and you said as well, in fact, at the very start of our interview, it's a vocation. It's not just a job, you know, it's more to it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Naya wants to know, what's the best part about your job? What do you enjoy the most?
I like activities. It's not really part of my job, but I always get involved. So we have an activities coordinator who arranges things. We do like arts and crafts, bingo, karaoke, all sorts of different things. So when it comes to like Christmas, we made Christmas cards and wrote to them. At the weekend, we did the Great British Bird Watch for the RSPB, and we do all sorts of things like that. So I love helping people to do things like that, because it's the part which the residents are getting something out of it, because it's their life, and, you know, making their day meaningful is really important in our job. And I just think that's the best bit.
Yeah. Did Audrey take part in that?
Did you do the British Bird Watch this weekend? Did you do the British Bird Watch this weekend? Did you watch for the birds at the weekend?
Oh, no, I didn't think of it.
Too busy.
Too busy word searching.
Zainab wants to know. Sorry, Audrey. Sorry, go on. I was interrupting there. You do sometimes, yeah.
It's
A bit more.
more, yes.
Yes, Audrey's recently moved, so we've got like a quiet garden outside this window. In her old, she used to have where she was in the main garden, and she had like a bird table outside. You used to get a lot of pigeons, didn't you?
Yeah.
And
There. I used to watch them. I don't often see them here.
Yeah. So, still, yeah. I've got a question from Zainab here. Zainab wants to know, how do you deal with stress? Audrey, can I start with you and then we'll move on to Chloe? Audrey, how do you deal with stress?
Did you get that? How do you deal with stress?
Just stay calm if I can.
You don't let things bother you, do you, really?
No. I just do something that can fill my mind and try and forget.
Yeah. It's always good listening to, someone's experience of how to deal with things, because everybody deals with, things in their own way, but staying calm, very important. How about you, Chloe? How do you deal with stress?
I think you just have to, every day is stressful in its own way. It's not always horrible stress where you don't want to be here, because like I say, the worst part for me is going home. So I think it's more about remembering why you're here, why you're doing what you're doing. Some people, the old saying, leave what goes on at home at the door and then you come to work. And you actually do, because when you walk through the doors and you see the people that you're going to look after, your whole day just changes. So you could be in the worst mood ever, and then you get to work and it just goes, because it's nothing to do with them. It's nothing, they've not done anything. So you just forget about it. And, stressful days happen, but with a good team behind you, which is what we've got here, it just makes it easier. Everyone pulls together. And you just have a bath when you get home and just relax. And then you just come from it. But yeah, I think it's just more about work, and definitely.
Yeah, and again, your passion and enthusiasm keeps coming through. You don't look forward to going home. You enjoy being there. And that kind of relates to the question here from Aliana, who wants to know, what are the pros and cons? But from what you've just said, you don't like going home. You love being in work. But, are there any other pros and cons to what you do?
So cons, it's a long day. So we do 12-hour shifts. That's quite, some people don't like that. But to be fair, when you're here, it just goes so quickly, you don't realise you're doing 12 hours. I don't really think there is. No, yeah. I don't think cons.
There you go. No cons, just pros. Fantastic.
Just go for it.
So, Emanuela wants to know, how have you found this whole experience of being a nurse?
Do you mean during the...
I think she's... Through COVID, how have you found it through COVID? Let's start with that.
So it's been a massive change. Everything that we do has had to change. So usual practices, sort of, obviously we have to wear the masks all the time now, which is really strange, especially on my unit where people have got a dementia and they're living with dementia. It's really difficult because they use facial expressions, they use lip reading, they do things like that to sort of recognise people. So when you've got half your face covered up, they don't always recognise who you are and if they know you. So that can make things a lot more difficult. And then we had an outbreak here just before Christmas, and it was horrific. It was terrible. Just seeing people be so poorly, and the things that, the way that the virus went through the home. We only had it on my unit. It wasn't on this side. And it just went through the home. It was awful. But we just all pulled together, and the way that the team did pull together was absolutely phenomenal. Like, they just went for it. They just got on with it. Nobody questioned anything. They just went and did. Everybody knew what they had to do. And it was as though we were all just programmed to do it, and we just did it. And nobody was, there was nothing wrong. But there was a lot of things that were harder. So, for example, when people, sadly did pass away, normally as a team, we would sit with that person, we would comfort them, or their family member would be in there and they would sit with them and they would comfort them. But during the pandemic, we weren't able to do that because there's limits on how long you can spend with the person who's COVID positive due to obviously the risk to yourself. Family members were only allowed to come in at the very end of someone's life. So there was weeks before where they were quite poorly and they weren't able to have that family contact. That goes against everything you learn as a nurse because it's all about, you know, dignity and dying and things like that. And that's really, really important. So that was really difficult. So yeah, it's different, but we're sort of getting there now. We're sort of understanding how we work through it, and it's becoming our new normal now. So
yeah. And that's the thing. It's you see it on the news, but then someone like yourself who's there on the front line having to deal with it day in, day out. I can imagine that must have been a very difficult period for you to go through. The rest of us are watching on the news here. We see what's happening, but it's not there every day. How do you cope with that? How do you deal with it?
I was just thinking about that when you were talking then. Our staff team, they were so good. Like we have one of the gents who works on nights. He's really into mindfulness and things like that. So he was doing sessions with the staff to help them through the day. So when they finish their shift, they do like a breathing exercise before they go home so that they can then relax. And, different staff deal with things differently. Some people like to walk and get it out of the system. Some people just like to go home and have a glass of wine or, everybody has different ways of coping with it, and that's okay. And it was important because we have a group chat as well. So we had a chat where we could just talk and, if we were upset about anything, we could always talk and there was always people there. Our company also offered like a wellbeing phone line as well. So if you were feeling really down or anything was bothering you, you could just ring that phone line and speak to someone. And it's sometimes easier, isn't it, with a neutral person rather than someone that you know. So that was really good as well.
And it's that having that support network, isn't it, around you?
Yeah.
How important was that?
Oh, so important. Knowing that obviously you're all going through it together, so you're all experiencing the same thing at the same time, but you're all being affected differently because obviously everyone's got their own lives at home, haven't they? And people have lost people have had people not very well. So it brings back memories from when you've had personal experiences. So it was just nice to have the staff team there that were just there. And, our team, so basically, as I said, it was in the other unit. So because a lot of the staff became ill with it, they had to go off sick, and the staff off this unit had to go on to there. And again, everyone just did it. And normally we work as two separate units, but on that occasion, we all just pulled together, and it was just really, really nice to see that everyone was such a good team.
Yeah. Again, in difficult times that, you want people to lean on, and it's, really good that you've got a great team there to support you. Just going back to the questions here, I've got a question from, we had one from, was it Zainab, was it? Bear with me. Okay, I'm sorry, Amelia. Amelia wants to know if you could change something in your job, what would it be?
That's a good question. What would it be, Audrey?
Yeah, I'll tell you what whilst
job. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll give you time to I'll give you time to think about that one. I've got a great question here from Matthew, but we'll wait till later on to ask that one. So just bear with us. It's asking a great question. Okay. You said you've got your qualifications and you studied up to a degree level. Is that essential? Do you need to get up to a degree standard? Promise is asking, do you need a degree level qualification?
Yeah, so I think they changed it when I qualified. They changed it. You did used to be able to do it off a diploma, but now I think everybody has to study to degree level, which has changed because I think at the diploma there was things like bursaries and things like that, whereas with the degree I think you have to obviously pay for accommodation, things like that, whereas people were getting it for free before. Well, not free, but they were sort of being reimbursed for it. But Yeah, so it's definitely essential that you are degree level, and it also broadens your horizons to like travel abroad and things like that. So if you wanted to sort of take your nursing to a different country, which I don't recommend because we need you here, but you could always do that. You can always go, you know, with a degree, because that's the better qualification to have.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you could take your career overseas, but you know, like you said, we do need nurses here. So better that you guys stick around rather than go overseas. We've got a question here from. We might have asked this before, but it's good to always get your answer again. Taiba wants to know what do you enjoy the most about what you do?
What do I enjoy the most?
Yeah.
I enjoy the people. The people that I look after are the reason why I do what I do. So yeah, I just love coming into work and getting, like with Audrey, we've got a really good bond, haven't we? Like we've made good friends during the time she's been here. So it's nice to come in and see Audrey for half an hour. It's like a social thing now. We can't go anywhere because we're in lockdown. It's nice to come and see someone new and have a chat with them. So yeah, it's the people.
Yeah. And again, there's another question here. What is each day like for you when you have to deal with, say, a client like Audrey? Patient like Audrey?
So every day is different. You can't, you think you can plan. So you have a diary and you come into work and you look at that diary and you think you've got a really easy day, and then something will happen, like the electric will go off and all your beds need to be recharged up and the mattresses need to be blown up, and there's all sorts of things that can go wrong. But each day is a challenge, but it's a nice challenge. So everything can change. So you know, obviously you've got your general jobs that you need to do, like you have to give out medication, you have to give out meals. There's, you know, personal care, there's things like that you have to do, and making sure your staff team are all okay, everyone breaks. But in between, there's lots of different things that happen that you can't plan for. And you just have to deal with them as they get thrown at you.
And has this changed since COVID, or has it been the same prior to COVID?
Once you're here, obviously we have to have like our temperatures taken, and we have like a gateway that we walk through, which is like a decontamination spray and things like that. Things like that have changed day to day, but it's just part of our normal day now. So
Beth wants to know how do you switch off? What do you do to unwind?
So my coping mechanism is a bath. So I go home and have a nice bath and just relax. It takes a while to come down at the end of the day because obviously you've been so busy all day. Your brain just like works overtime. But that's my way to just relax. I just go and have a nice bath, take the dog for a walk, go for a walk, get some fresh air, and then I seem to be okay then. But you don't really switch off as a nurse. That's just not something that you do.
So you're always thinking about what's going on, with the job.
Yeah.
Cameron, I've seen your question. Yes, Audrey's had her vaccine. Guys, keep the questions coming in. Keep the questions coming. What would you advise me to our students watching today? What would you say to them?
If it is a career that you want to get into, I recommend that you go into it because it's so rewarding. It's a lovely job to have. It's very responsible. It teaches you so much. You learn something new every day, and you get to meet people and spend time with people. You get so much life experience through just one day at work because you hear of all the stories that people have to share with you. So, like, you know, we have a lot of people. We've got a man here who's a judge. He was a judge before he retired, and so he's got lots of stories which he can tell you. You know, we have a lot of different cultures. We have people that can speak different languages, and it's just so informative. Like the whole day, you can just learn so much. It's really good. So I definitely say go for it.
Mohammed wants to know: would you have done anything differently?
No, no. With where I am, I knew I wanted to help people, and that's what I'm doing. So I don't think I could have got a much better fit, really.
Yeah. And it's really important, again, isn't it? You know, it's finding that career that, you really do enjoy doing. And I think, from looking back and when you took that placement to where it's brought you today, that journey is all, worth it. It's all paid off. What were the difficult, during the difficult times? Were there times where you felt like, is it all worth it? And how did you motivate yourself? How did you galvanize yourself to keep going?
So when I was at university, there was a few assignments that I submitted that I didn't pass. So I was really disheartened by that, because obviously you don't want to not pass something. You always want to pass, don't you? And I remember feeling like, oh, well, what's the point? Like, why should I carry on? This is just ridiculous. I'm stressing myself out for nothing, because I don't even know if I like the job, because obviously at this point I knew I wanted to do it, but I just didn't know what the job actually was. But you sort of just have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and try again. And I'm so glad that I did, because now I'm here and I wouldn't change it for the world. So, it is just about, you have to just be strong-minded, and it's really hard, and you can cry, and it's okay. It's okay to cry, because, you're human, but you'll get there in the end.
Yeah.
If it's where you definitely get there.
Yeah. It's that determination and grit again, isn't it, to keep going during those difficult days. Nargis wants to know, is there something that you've learned due to this career and due to where you are today? Is there something personal or professional maybe that you've learned? Which I'm sure.
A lot. I think you learn a lot about yourself being a nurse, because you work in an environment where everybody is of similar ilk to you, so they're all quite similar natured. We all want to care for people. We're all very caring people, and it teaches you a lot about who you are as a person and how you cope, and how because you just sort of have to do it, don't you? You don't plan how you're going to cope with something. It's just going to be, it happens, and that's how you cope with it. So for me, it's definitely. Oh, that's your phone.
There you go. It's live. Audrey's receiving
you must have heard she's
call.
On live. The press are ringing her now.
Audrey receiving a call in this live interview. Chloe, what do you want to achieve with your career? How far do you want to go?
At the moment, I'm quite happy where I am, because of the team that we've got and the place I work. I really enjoy. In the future, there is ways that I can progress. There's a home manager, regional manager. There's definitely options. However, at the moment, I'm quite happy as I am.
And I've got a really important question here for Audrey.
Right, this is you now.
Are you ready, Audrey? This is really important. Matthew wants to know what your favourite biscuit is.
What's your favourite biscuit?
Biscuit.
Yeah.
Biscuit.
Don't just say any. This is important.
I like several.
Can you talk us through what are your top 3 biscuits?
Top 3. Your top 3 biscuits.
I like wafer biscuits.
Pink wafers.
Yeah.
Cream. And some of the chocolate.
Chocolate biscuits.
Audrey,
and then what, like a custard?
Yeah.
Yeah, custard creams.
Are you a dunker? Do you dunk your biscuits in your tea?
Do you dunk your biscuits in your tea?
Sometimes. It's hard.
Fantastic. Breaking news. Audrey dunks her biscuits in the tea.
She'll be on the front page of the Chronicle tomorrow.
Excellent. So, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us and have a chat and tell us about what you do.